Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna. So today we have entered to the 9th day of our series, which is dealing with COVID crisis through the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. Now, before I welcome all of you, I would like to ask some questions. First of all, from our kids. Have you ever thought like, oh, I prepared so hard for the examination and I tried to do so well, but still I didn't get the desired marks? Or maybe the people who are working in the office, oh, who I'm the most deserving one. I don't know why my boss is not giving that desired promotion. Even the people who don't deserve, they are getting promotion and I'm not getting. Or maybe sometimes, oh, I follow such a healthy lifestyle and I'm also try to become a good devotee. Despite of that, I'm having lots of problems with the people around me or the lifestyle issues or the health issues. I believe these are the common questions which I have faced and you must have also faced in your life. Whether you are a kid, maybe related to the studies, or if you are adult, then maybe it's related to your family life or work-life balance and all. Yes or no? So now, today's session is also about this. Many times we think about this, that why such things are happening with some people who are so good? Why do bad things happen to good people? So we have entered to this particular topic. Today we are going to discuss part 1 and Madan Sundar Prabhuji is going to help us to understand this particular topic through his understanding, his knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. Earlier, we have discussed very integral topics regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is God, how does he control, about the things regarding his supremacy, why Vedas were considered as mythology, and then he proved scientifically that the Bhagavad Gita or all the Vedas have their science behind it. So spirituality and science go hand in hand. Yesterday only we were discussing the topics related to the religious practices. Now we are moving towards very, very important kind of our day-to-day life kind of topic, like why do bad things happen to good people? And maybe some of you must be thinking like, why good things happen to bad people? So we request Madan Sundar Prabhuji to take us through this journey to understand, first of all, why do bad things happen to good people? And if time allows, please, Prabhuji, give us some remedies also so that we can understand if such things are happening in our life, how to sail through such situation. Without a much ado, I welcome all our YouTube participants and Zoom participants, and I request Madan Sundar Prabhuji to take over the session. Over to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. Hare Krishna. So we welcome each and every one of you for, I believe, the 9th session on the 5th topic of this series of dealing with crisis through the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. So my sincere gratitude to our host, Mother Dipasha, as well as Mother Medhavani and others who are taking out time every evening to bring us, all of us together for this very important discussion. And also to each one of you for joining us from the last 9 days. So starting our discussion for today, today's topic is, why do bad things happen to good people? A lot of questions have been already asked pertaining to the subject in the previous sessions that we had. And I tried putting all those questions in the car park so that when we come to this topic, we can cover or discuss it. So it's a subject matter which have confused even the best of the scholars, the philosophers, and the scientists, and the pundits. When things are going fine, generally people don't ask much. Particularly, people don't ask much when things are going good in their life. When things are not going the way they wanted it, then generally this question arises. And at that point of time, if you don't have a proper support of a knowledge, spiritual knowledge, then generally person gets discouraged, distracted, as well as deviated from his religious and spiritual practices. It's a very important subject. However, before we begin, I would be discussing this topic in 2 parts, today and tomorrow. So my request to our audience, when you ask questions, try to frame your questions pertaining to the topic that we discussed today. Otherwise, as far as I understand, all of your questions are going to pertain to a subject matter that I intend to discuss tomorrow. So stay alert, and let's start with our discussion. To start with it, I like to narrate a short story that happened at the time of Buddha. There was a young lady, a married woman, who had given birth to a child just a few weeks ago. And unfortunately, because of some unprecedented situations or awkward situation or health crisis with the child died prematurely. The mother was heartbroken. She was crying. She was knocking on the door of everyone to help revive the child, bring some doctor to save the life of the child. And she was not willing the dead body of the son or the child to go away from her. So somebody suggested to her that outside the village, there's a monastery of Buddha. He is a great saint and a great mystic. He can do anything. Why don't you go and take your child to him? Maybe he can revive your son or your child. This lady brought her son to Buddha. With tears in her eyes, she pleaded, please, please, you are a great saint. You can perform all kinds of miraculous feats. Please help me or save my child. Please revive my son, revive my child. Buddha said, all right, I shall do it, but I have a condition. I want you to give me a donation of palm full of rice. And if you do so, then I will revive your child. So mother was like, why not? Why you ask for palm full? I'll give you a whole truck full of rice. Buddha said, no, pay attention. I have not yet completed. Listen to me completely. I want you to give me a palm full of rice that you should go and not get from your house, but ask from your neighbor. From that neighbor or from that house, you should get this palm full of rice, that house which has never seen a death. So the lady thought this is so simple a task. She thought, fantastic, my son would be revived. She said, I'll go and I'll come like this. She went running and she began to knock on the door of the neighbors, one neighbor, another neighbor, the third and the fourth and the fifth. And like this, the whole day passed by and she could not find even a single neighbor or a single house in the whole village that had never seen a death. Somebody's son, somebody's father, sister, grandparents, somebody have died in the house. Finally, by the time it became even the message of Buddha, she came back empty-handed. And then she said, my dear sage, I have understood your message or the lesson that you wanted to give to me. Death is inevitable. Suffering is inevitable. There are certain things that we need to accept it and to move forward. Just to give you a little glimpse of this important subject, that there are certain things that are unavoidable, just like change of seasons. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Matra spashastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkha agama payino nityas tam stitakshva bharata. Hey Arjuna, just like the change of season, summer season goes, winter comes, winter goes, the summer season comes. Similarly, the happiness is preceded by suffering. Suffering is followed up by happiness. Just like there's a change of seasons, so like that, there is a change of our happiness and distress. Nobody asks for suffering. Suffering comes on its own accord. Therefore, the enlightened sages speak or say that just like the suffering comes uninvited, so does the happiness. Narad Muni tells Vyasadeva in first canto, why do people endeavor for happiness so much? When without endeavoring, they can get misery. Why would not they get happiness, which is according to their quota? What is that quota and what is the subject matter? We'll speak about it. So has any one of you ever faced a serious setback in your life? Loss of a loved one, or maybe financial crisis, or anything? If yes, is chat enabled, by the way? So kindly keep enabled so we can have a little interaction. If there is a question, if the answer is yes or no, please feel free to write it, and I'll request our admin here, he can indicate if our audience is reacting. So if you have faced setback, any major setback, I'm pretty sure some of us or most of us would have wondered as follows. How many of you have wondered like this? Why me? Hare Krishna. Too much background noise. Why me? Do I really deserve this? Who is responsible for it? Is God responsible or someone else responsible for the suffering that I'm undergoing? Do events take place by chance? I'm pretty sure these are some of the things that generally come in the mind of others. There could be some possible other questions that might have come in the mind. But how many of you have pondered like this whenever any crisis or we undergo any crisis? So I believe our audience was reacting with yes. Looks like yes, we all think like that. And so does everyone else. Now, what happened when we're going through this kind of a questions in our mind? What kind of possible outcomes are there because of such kind of a thinking or having lack of clarity on this subject matter? To begin with, let's begin one of the prominent personality of this whole course, Mr. Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin, as such, we know of him as an atheist who spoke about this Darwin's theory, an atheistic theory about the origin of species. However, Charles Darwin was not like this always. He was a devout Christian until the point of time when he lost his 8-year-old son to a deadly disease. When his son died, he began to ask the following questions, or the above questions that we just discussed. Why me? Why God? I had been faithful to you all my life. Why have you taken my son away from me? And because he could not find an appropriate or proper answer for it, he ended up blaming God for it. And he ended up coming to a conclusion: the God must not exist. If he would have existed, he would not have allowed this suffering on his staunch devotee. And therefore, Darwin became an atheist. Atheism is one of the conclusions that people come to. Similarly, there is a story of Krishna. who wrote When Bad Things Happen to Good People book somewhere in mid of 80s. He was also a devout Christian, a great pastor and preacher of Christianity. Just like Charles Darwin lost his son, similarly, something happened similar to this Kushner also, Harold S. Kushner. He also lost his child. And then he also began to ponder, why me? Who's responsible for the suffering? And he came to a conclusion. God is there. He is omniscient. He knows everything. He is omnipresent. He is present everywhere. But he is not omnipotent, which means all powerful. If he was omnipotent, then he would have saved my son from the hands of the death. So his conclusion was deism. Deism is close to agnostic. Yes, Lord is there, but he's not all super powerful or the complete controller. He has some control, but not the all control. That's the point here. Coming to another incident, a very famous incident from a family of Scotland, a man who worked all his life and with all his savings, he wanted to go on a world tour along with his family. And he purchased the most expensive tickets of that time for his whole huge family of a size of a cricket team. And just a week before he was supposed to leave or embark on his world tour on this maiden trip on this ship, which was the biggest and the greatest ship ever built at that time, a week before, his son was bitten by a dog that was infected. Because the son was bitten by the dog, therefore the whole family was put into quarantine. And when the whole family was put into quarantine, all of them had to miss traveling on this world tour. And at that point of time, everyone was cursing, why I? Why my family? Why, my Lord, you did this to us? However, a week later, that maiden trip of the biggest ship built of ever at that point of time started, and after 2 days, there was news came. The ship that was told even God cannot sank on his first voyage trip, and the name of the ship was Titanic. And when the message reached to this family, if you remember, more than 1,700 people had died in that accident, and around 2,000 people went missing. When the message came to these people, then they were totally confused. Was it for our good that our son got bitten by an infected dog, or was it for our bad? Another philosophy called as confusion. And like that, there are many, many examples. I'll conclude with this last example of Arthur Ashe, who won the Wimbledon championship. And later on, at a very young age, he was infected or diagnosed with cancer. And the reporter asked him, whom do you blame? We have heard you're a man of God. You believe in the words of God. So do you think God is responsible for your suffering today? Arthur Ashe said, very interesting thing. He said, the population of kids in the world is 50 crore. 5 lakh kids begin to learn tennis. 50,000 of them learn professional tennis. 50 out of them take part in Grand Slam. 4 out of them qualify for semi-final. 2 go to final. And 1 wins the Wimbledon. And I am one of them who won the Wimbledon. When everything was going great in my life, that time I didn't ask, my Lord, what have I done to deserve this accolade or this recognition? Then how can I ask God today why bad things happen to good people? And that is part of theism, a strong faith. So, is God responsible for our happiness or distress? Let's ask this question with 3 options: yes, no, maybe. So let's see what our audience. I could have put a poll actually, but I made a little mistake. So my question to all of you here: yes, no, or maybe. What's your answer to it? And then we'll proceed ahead. Is God responsible? Yes, no, or maybe. What do you think? Is everything all right? Oops. Okay, great. Everyone says no. So do you all remember? I had once narrated a story in one of the sessions earlier that the sage was invited by the jamindar of a village, and he was asked, please come and tell our people about the existence of God. When he came and asked, do you believe God exists? At one point of time, none of them raised their hand. Then he said, if you all are atheistic, what is the point? Other time, they all raised their hand. Yes. And he said this time, well, if you all know the answer, then what is there for me to teach you? So it looks like if you all think God is not responsible, if you already know the answer to this problem, then there's nothing for me to proceed ahead. So this is definitely not a question mark for you then. Maybe we can pause the session here and take a question answers if in case there are some pending questions. All right, nonetheless, we'll still continue. So is God responsible for happiness or distress? Let me tell you one small story. In a town, there was a wealthy man who was very charitable. He had a big house, and he would go on the top of the terrace early in the morning and would throw away charity, like grains, vegetables, fruits, the household items. And when the villagers got to know, villagers began to come and they began to collect. But none of them ever looked up that who is throwing up or throwing away all these items. Few days it went okay. After a few days, people began to complain, oh ho, आज तो मुझे केवल 1 liter oil मिला, आज घी नहीं मिला. And those who got ghee, they began to complain, oh, this is the mango season. I didn't got mango today. I only got ghee. And those who got mango, they complained, what will I do with mango? I didn't got a milk. How would I make a mango shake? So like that, different people began to complain. And when the owner saw this, he became sad. He went and told his wife, how ungrateful of these people. I'm helping them. I'm giving them charity. Not even once they have looked at me and said, thank you. Again, they have begun to fight with each other. They're getting things for free, just like all of us get. The air to breathe, the water to drink, and the sunlight. Of course, these days, air you have to purchase. If in case you breathe oxygen, probably you've got oxygen cylinder at your house already by now. So, so air, the sunlight, the water, all these are resources of the Lord. So the owner said, I'm giving them so many things, but they never look at me and say, thank you. Rather than being grateful, they're fighting among themselves like cats and dogs. Sounds something like modern society, isn't it? So the wife said, well, these people just like, Lato ke bhoot baaton se nahi mante is a saying in Hindi. Well, if that's the case, tomorrow, rather than giving, grains and vegetables in charity, I have a plan. I'll bring you a set of bricks. When you go on the terrace tomorrow, you start throwing bricks at them. And let's see how people would react. The owner said, okay. And next morning, when people assembled, waiting for where is the vegetable, where is the grocery, and suddenly flying from the sky came crashing on their head and the body bricks. And when the brick began to fall on their body, they began to look, who is throwing the brick? Who is throwing the brick? And they looked at the owner, you rascal, you're throwing the brick. When things were good in our life, we never said, thank you, God. And when things were not going good in our life, many people point their fingers saying that, why are you sending misery in our life? So once again, I'm raising a question. Is God responsible for our happiness or distress? So this question can be answered through the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita and otherwise not. Bhagavad Gita has 5 prominent subject matters: Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, and Karma. So far, we have discussed about Ishvara and Jiva at length. Kala, Prakriti, and Karma are pending, which I wish to cover today and tomorrow. And when we understand these 5 subject matters, you know the truth as it is. You will understand how this world functions, what I ought to be doing, what I'm supposed to do, and how I'm supposed to live my life, and why bad things happen to good people. So let's take a look at the concept of Prakriti for today, about this material creation. Before we get into it, let's briefly talk about Ishvara and Jiva. Ishvara, that is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna, he is Sat Chit Ananda. And Jiva, referring to living entity, are his eternal part and parcel. The spirit soul. The spirit soul is also Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Just like the Lord, because we are part and parcel of the Supreme Spirit, so we are also in quality the same. But the question arises, why are we suffering? Yes or no? Lord is all blissful, Anandamaya Bhyasat. But why are we dukha, always surrounded by dukha or suffering? Let's answer this question first today. Material world, this huge, gigantic creation. We've already discussed that we are a very infinitesimal in this whole creation, not only our own existence, but the existence of this planet and the existence of this universe within all the universes which are there as part of material universe. So according to scriptures, the sum total of Lord's creation, if it is 100%, then 25% includes the material creation, whereas the 75% includes the spiritual world. That's the point here. What is spiritual world? We'll be discussing soon, but that's what the whole thing. Only 25% of Lord's creation is of material world. So what is this Prakriti or material world? It consists of millions of universes, 1/4 of the total creation. Material nature, Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita as Sukhalyam and eternal. I'm sorry, wish it could have been, but it is Dukhalyam and Ashashvatam, the place of misery. Have you heard of Himalayan? Alya refers to house. Himalaya, him means snow. The house of snow is called as Himalaya. Pustakalya, the library, the house where books are kept is called as Pustakalya. But obvious, what does Dukhalya means? The house where there is only suffering. And that is what Bhagavad Gita, Lord Shri Krishna stamps this material world forever to be Dukhalaya. And in this house of suffering, you and I and rest of the humanity is trying to find out happiness. And this idea is further propagated by the whims of the modern scientist who thinks, who claims, who prophesies, who promises that in near future will win victory over death. By the time those who propose these proposals, by the time they could even do any research, they pass away, another generation comes. And like that, tens of generations have passed by giving false claims of making man eternal. Whereas spiritual world is called as Vaikuntha. Kuntha means no misery. Vaikuntha means misery. Vai means no misery is called Vaikuntha. And Lord Shri Krishna defines spiritual world in one verse in Bhagavad Gita in 15th chapter, verse number 6. Natad bhasate suryo nashashankana bhavaka yadgatva nanivartante tathama paramam mama. That supreme abode of mind, Krishna says, is not illumined by the sun or the moon, and one who reaches there never ever comes back. Which means in this material world, for an example, just like when it becomes dark in the night, you need electricity or you need a lamp, yes? So in the night represents darkness, yes? And to dissipate the darkness, you need light. Material world is said to be asata, temporary, tamosa, full of ignorance. How? Because to light up this material universe, you need sun and other luminaries. Yes or no? If there is no sunlight, there will be only darkness. And Krishna says, Arjuna, natad bhasate suryo nashashankana pavaka. Spiritual world is a place of light, is a place of knowledge, place of eternity, where you don't need external source of light. This world is the Kalayam and Ashashvatam. How is it? Let's look into this. Question for all of you. What are the possible things needed for a well-planned city? For a well-planned city? Well, for a well-planned city, there are several things that we need. We need theaters, we need playgrounds, we have hospital, we have colleges, stadium, mall, playground, road, bridges, buildings, whatnot. Is there anything missing for a well-planned city? Yes, for any well-planned city, there is one more thing needed. That is said to be a prison house. Why prison house? Because there are always some elements who do not want to follow the law of the state. And for them, there is a specific house designated called as Kalagraha, Bandhagraha, or in English we call it prison house. So criminal elements in society force the authorities to create prisons. When you have a criminal, you have two options to deal with them. Either you can jail them to reform them, or you can shoot them. But shooting them is not the best option. Giving a second chance is always a good option. So when you want to reform them, therefore, prison house is meant to provide a basic facility. Jail or prison house means where you have minimum facilities provided for your sustenance. You'll have a place to live, you'll have your place to eat, but with minimum facilities. Imagine if your prison house had to become like a 5-star Taj hotel with a private waiter waiting at your door whenever you are waiting for your call, whenever you call the door, or whenever you ring the doorbell, or whatever, whenever you ring, and this person walks in and he serves you. You have your favorite cuisine on your demand, have a fantastic living room to live and enjoy. How many of you would still be working in IT job? Probably all of you would say the prison house is a better option than to be in the prison house of the IT office. Where you're put into a small nest, like what they call office space, nonetheless. So this is not what prison house is meant to be. Prison house is meant to provide you the basic minimum necessities, not a 5-star comfort. This material world is compared to a prison house. That's the reason Krishna says, Dukhalayam Shashvatam. Good is Ashashvatam, which means our stay is also temporary here. We have an opportunity to quit this temporary place and go back to our eternal home, that is spiritual world. So question arises, what is the need of prison house for us? Need of prison house is first for punishment, and second is purification, right? P square, or 2P. P for punishment, P for purification. Punishment for the mistakes that we have done by breaking the laws, and purification of what? The 6 enemies that trouble us, every living entity, said to be Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mad, Matsarya. So how punishment is given? We'll talk about purification short while. I have not written here, but yes, how punishment is given to all of us here. And after this presentation, tell me if you agree or not, if this material world is prison house or not. Purpose of prison house is to give us punishment. So how every living entity is given punishment? Through the means of birth, death, old age, and disease. These are sufferings. These are painful events. Now question arises, so who is the jailkeeper for this prison house? And the jailkeeper for this prison house is none other than Durga. Does anyone know what does Durga means? Ga means Gamana. Dur means very difficult. Durga means very difficult to come out of the clutches or to escape. Escape what? Escape Durga. Durga refers to, or Durga means prison house. Durga is a caretaker of Durga, which is a prison house. And she keeps on punishing us. You see, she has a trishul in her hand with 3 ends. So she keeps on punishing us with 3 vidhi tapa. What is 3 vidhi tapa? That is Adhi Atmika Kalesh, Adhi Bhautika Kalesh, and Adhi Daivika Kalesh. We've already discussed about this subject before, so I'm not going to details of it. And like this, Durga, the jailkeeper, the superintendent of this material world, punishes every living entity with 3-fold miseries. So that's about punishment. We are given punishment in the form of Adhyatmika, Adhibhautik, Adhidaivika. What about purification? What are we supposed to purify? We are supposed to purify ourselves of these 6 enemies, or the viruses that have infected our mind. That is Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mad, Matsarya. So what happens when a prisoner is sent to a prison house? As soon as a prisoner is sent to the prison house, his clothes are changed. Yes or no? So before I proceed ahead, let me ask this question to all of you. So far, what we have discussed, are you able to relate and understand that how this material world is actually a place of Dukhalaya and is actually a place called as prison house? Govinda. Yes or no? Let's see a little bit. If you're able to understand this much. Maybe, maybe not is also fine. Okay, let's proceed ahead if it all makes sense so far. Now, still the equation is not over. If it's a prison house, we should be given a dress. Yes. The first thing that happens to a living entity, which means the spirit soul or the soul, which is spiritual in its nature, when it comes to this prison house, is given a dress. A dress to choose from 8.4 million species of life. And that is what is being described in Padma Purana, where Padma Purana says, Jalajanava lakshani sthavara lakshavimshati kramyo rutra sankhya pakshinam dasha lakshanam trimshal lakshani pashava chatur lakshani manushaha. Do we have the sound coming here? Can my sound from the laptop be relayed out? So is the Bluetooth on? Is my Bluetooth connected? 1 second, please. Yeah, it's connected. Sound was not coming. Okay, I need to just 1 second, everyone. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama. All right. I have to give HDMI as a sound. Bluetooth, okay. So we just spoke about the subject matter of the verse from Padma Purana. What does it mean? Can't hear anything. It's coming. Jalaja Navalakshani. Jalaja means the living entities found in the ocean or river, aquatics. 9 lakhs of them. Sthavara refers to non-movable. What are the non-movable living entities? It refers to plants and trees. How many of them? 20 lakh. Kramayo refers to reptiles and snakes. Kramayo Rudra Sankhya. Rudra means 11. 11 lakh of reptiles and snakes. Pakshinam Dashalakshanam. Pakshinam Dashalakshanam means that 10 lakh types of birds. Trimshal Lakshani Pashavaha, which means Pashava means quadrupeds, 4-legged. There are 30 lakhs. And Chatur Lakshani Manushaha is 4 lakh species. Okay. I'll explain this ahead. Just 1 quick second with the sound here again. Yeah, sound will come now. All right, we'll continue the presentation. So like this, Padma Purana describes about that 8.4 million species are there. We can increase the system volume there. So yes. So this is what it means. 9 lakh of them lives in water, 20 lakhs are non-moving. And let's take a look of it. What all or how many varieties of or types of bodies are available? 9 lakh of living entities found in aquatics or, live inside the river or the ocean. So these many varieties of bodies are given for aquatics. 20 lakh of non-moving, plant, trees, bushes, and all these kind of varieties. Then 11 lakh of reptiles and insects. 11 lakh species of it are found in this material universe. So when a Jivatma comes to this world, among so many options, he is awarded a dress. How the dress is awarded, we'll discuss that in a short while. So these all living entities have soul, like you and I have a soul, the sustenance of our life. 10 lakh species of birds. So all of these representing living entities who have descended down from the spiritual world and they're suffering, undergoing punishment and purification. And depending on how they live their life in this world determines if they would be released from the prison house or not. And that opportunity is only given in the human form of life. And then there are 30 lakhs of 4-legged animals, which this many varieties of options of prison dress is given or provided. And then we have 4 lakh species of humans. It depends on the consciousness. That's how the division of human species are done. It also includes Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, Rakshasas, the Devatas. These all are the part of this 4 lakh species. So, which means on the different basis of consciousness, like that. So, this is how, when a living entity comes to this world, is awarded with option from 8.4 million dresses, or what we call as species. So, what are people doing to get out of this prison house? They're actually simply undergoing from prison cell D to C, C to B, and B to A. What it means? In America, there are different kinds of prison cells for different kind of prisoners. For a political prisoners, there's a prison cell type of A, which will have an AC and a TV and more comfort. For a pickpocketer, lesser facility, cell B. For somebody who has committed a grave offense, for him, a little more stricter punishment, and type C of prison cell. Somebody who is a terrorist, rapist, and so kind of serious crimes, that living entity or that criminal is put into type D prison house. Similarly, all of us are undergoing the process of transmigration from prison cell D to B, C, C to B, B to A. So D represents the trees, which represent the least amount of consciousness and is a state of greater suffering. And then C, so type of a cell, represent insects and birds, and B, kind of a prison house, represents animals and fishes. And finally, the A, which has the best facility to come out of this prison house. So all 8.4 million species are put into prison according to their spiritual realization, which means according to their consciousness. And therefore, Lord Shri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 8 chapter 16 verse, A Brahma Bhuvanaloka Punaravartino Arjuna Mamupetya Tukanteya Punarjanmana Vidyate. Arjuna, from the topmost planet of Brahma to the down to the lowest planet, every place is a place of suffering. And wherever you take birth, you have to die and take rebirth again. However, Mamupetya Tukanteya, if in case you attain to my abode, Punarjanmana Vidyate, Arjuna, you will not have to take birth again, which means once the prisoner is released from this prison house of the material world, goes back to spiritual world, the person never ever comes back. I know some of you would be wondering, theoretically we understand this whole concept analogy of prison, but where are the prison walls? Where are the shackles of the chain that prisoners are tied up with? I am a Swatantra Nivasi of a Swatantra Desh. I'm a free citizen of a free country. And you are telling us that we are a prisoner? What's an evidence? Yes, this material world is a prison without walls. So how are we bound in this prison house if there are no walls? So we are bound by the chains, invisible chains of modes of material nature. Just like a ship which is anchored with a strong rope cannot move, similarly, these 3 ropes of Sattvagun, Rajaguna, Tamaguna bind a living entity in such a way that he cannot act the way he wants or she wants to act. I'll give you a quick example about it. Let's take a look. What is this modes of material nature? Krishna says, 14th chapter, verse number 5, Sattvam Rajastama iti. They are said to be Sattva Rajastama. Guna Prakriti Sambhavaha Nibadnanti Mahabhav. As soon as he comes in contact with this material nature, he gets bound by Sattva Rajas Tamaguri Atama Dehe Dehinam Avyayam. And like that, he's shackled by these 3 chains of Sattva, Raja, and Tamaguna. So how are we bound? We are bound by these 3 invisible chains of Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun. And here is my question to all of you. Please pick your answer. If Sattva Gun can be compared to gold chain, 24 karat platinum gold chain. So let's compare your passion or Rajaguna with a silver chain and Tamoguna with an iron chain. So my question to all of you is, which chain would you prefer to be tied up with? Iron chain, silver chain, gold chain? So let's see how intelligent you are. Obviously, gold chain, isn't it? I can sell it off later on and don't need to work after. Gold chain, fantastic. So yes, some people are attracted to gold, no doubt about it. But an intelligent person would actually prefer to be tied up with no chain. Are if you are already tied up, how would you sell the gold chain? What will you do with the gold? Anyways, I'm just joking. So, three chains of material nature. Very, very profound subject matter. And I would really, really request you and recommend you to please do attend the 18-day complete Bhagavad Gita course that we are starting from the 8th of June. There we'll be discussing the subject matter in details. 14 chapters, 17 chapter, 18 chapter of Bhagavad Gita speaks about the subject matter at length. So what it means is this, that these chains or these modes influences everything about us. The way the person speak, the way the person dresses, the kind of the hairstyle, the kind of the food he eat, the kind of music, the kind of the movies he watch, the kind of the fragrance he like to smell, everything that we do, every single aspect of our life is influenced by the modes of material nature. If you and I can understand, unless if you can understand what modes predominate you, you don't need an astrologer to tell you what your future is. I say that again. If you can understand the science and recognize what are the predominant modes affecting you, you never have to go to an astrologer to tell you what your future would be. And what it means, I'll tell you in a short while. Let's take a look at some of the qualities of the people predominantly in goodness, passion, ignorance. Those who have a predominance of goodness, always seeking for higher knowledge, higher truth, absolute knowledge. They generally live a sin-free life or sinless life. They follow the philosophy of be good, do good. And they are satisfied with their present condition and have a sense of happiness and well-being. I just wanted to calmly digest the subject matter and tell me quickly, have you ever seen such a person who is content, lives a sin-free life? Yes, no, or not at all? You don't have to necessarily, but I'm just asking. So we'll get to know. Okay, great. Some people have seen such kind of personalities. Great. Let's move forward. What about those who are predominated by mode of passion? People in mode of passion have unlimited desires. Others, unlimited desires. To give you an example, one friend was crying and complaining to his friend. And he was telling, he was crying. A month ago, my father-in-law died. The friend said, oh, so sorry to hear that. No, not the complete picture. My father-in-law, when he died, he left me 10 lakh rupees as whatever you say, what do we call it? Jayadat. I mean, what's the English word? Bill, whatever. Sorry, I missed the word. So anyways, my father left 10 lakh rupees on my name. The friend said, oh, that's a good news. No. After 15 days, my mother-in-law died. Oh, friend said, that's very sad. No, that's not a complete picture. My mother-in-law left 20 lakh rupees on my name. Friend said, oh, that's a good news. No, I have not yet completed my statement. And he again began to cry. Friend said, what happened? And then this friend who was crying said, 5 days ago, my sister-in-law died. The friend said, oh, that's really, really sad. But the friend said, no, when my sister-in-law died, she left 30 lakh rupees on my name. The friend said, oh, that's good. Well, no, that's not good. So the friend asked, why are you crying? There is nobody left to die in my in-laws. Everyone have died. I mean, I'm just joking. That's just a joke. But the point I'm trying to make here is the people with unlimited desires can never be satisfied. They're always fighting with themselves to have more and more and more. Their happiness, I would say, put it there, others' achievements make them sad. They have a strong attraction for the opposite sex. And no wonder this is something which sells the most in the world today. Look at the billboards, look at the advertisement, look at the news, look at the movie or anything is where this is projected the most. Unfortunately, have caught up the attention of everyone and absorbed them into such consciousness. And they're always seeking for personal gains from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sukha sampatti ghar aave, कष्ट मिटे तन का बोलो Om Jai Jagadish Hare. So anyways, again, I just want to make it a little lighter, so that's it that I'm saying like this. So yes, probably all of you have heard and remember this Om Jai Jagadish Hare. So that's the idea. That's a prayer in this mood, actually, personal gains from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So my question to all of you, have you seen any person like this? Have you seen somebody who's representing this psychology, this kind of a nature? Yes or no? Yes. You have to be quick, huh? If you delay it, then my session gets delayed, okay? Don't blame me if I have to extend beyond time. All right. Now let's go to person in ignorance, which is predominated by Tamo Guna. First sign is madness, cannot distinguish the right from the wrong. Once a drunkard, he entered the bus and he sat next to an elderly woman. He was really drunk. And then he went and sat right next to an elderly woman. Elderly woman looked at him and said, I have news for you. You're going to hell. Suddenly the man jumped off and he said, oh my God, I'm in the wrong bus. The point here is the people in Tamoguna, you tell them anything of sense does not make sense to them. They think they are only right and everyone else is wrong. And second predominant sign of their nature is laziness. They love to sleep. You give them an opportunity, they can sleep for 12 hours, 14 hours. Another symptom of this consciousness is hardly any interest in spiritual life. They generally break all the, or they generally engage in all kind of sinful activities. Like that are the people in ignorance or, are always intoxicated. So my question to all of you, have you seen people like this? Always breaking the rules and regulations, going against dharma, intoxicated, loves to sleep and whatnot. Okay, so I believe Bhagavad Gita makes sense. Bhagavad Gita have described such kind of psychologies. I'll give you a quick example to help you remember this concept. Is a famous example of three brothers from Ramayana, Ravana, Kumbhakaran, and Vibhishan. Kumbhakaran represents ignorance. Ravana represents a person in passion, and Vibhishan represents a person in goodness. Now, whatever we have studied the qualities is what you can easily map up to them like that. So, modes affects us at all time in all situation. I see our time is running out. I'll request all of you, if I have your permission, to take 5 minutes more than our allotted time. If in that case, I'll just speak a little bit more about the subject matter to help you understand how important is the subject matter. So do I have your permission to go up to 8:05? Okay, fine. So let me tell you one case study, an example to help you understand this modes of material nature. There was a town in which there are three brothers who had a business of selling cap. उनका business था दूसरों को टोपी पहनाना. I mean to say they used to go and sell caps. And these three brothers' names were Satto, Rajo, and Tamo. And one day one brother will go, another day another brother will go, third day another brother will go. Like this, they would travel to different villages, sell cap or topi pehnakar log aa jate the. So on the way there was a forest, and when the summer season came, so what they decided that they would go and take rest under the shade of one of the tree, have their lunch, and then they would take some rest before they would proceed for their business. So one day when Satto was going, then suddenly, let's begin with Tamo, the younger brother. When Tamo was going through the forest, he had his lunch and he had his bag of all the caps. So he kept the bag or the sack nearby. He was also wearing a cap himself, and he took out his cap and put it into the pocket and went to sleep. And when he opened his eyes, he was shocked to see there were not even a single cap around him or in the sack. And when he looked around, he was crying, "Where are the caps? I have lost all my business, all my effort." And they saw on the tree of on the branches of all the different trees, there were monkeys wearing the cap. And this Tammo began to cry and he began to curse. "I am so unfortunate. Why bad things happen to me? What did I do wrong? Why did this monkey stole my cap?" And like this, he began to cry and he walked away from the situation and went right to the bar, drank alcohol, and tried to forget his misery. The person's name is Tammo. The next day, a similar incident happened with a person by the name of Raju, the elder brother to Tammo. He also went through the same process, and suddenly when he woke up, he also realized all his caps have been taken away. Only one cap was remaining, which he had put it on his head and had kept it in his pocket before sleeping. And when he saw the monkeys have stolen the cap, he became so angry, he began to curse them. He began to pick up the rocks and began to throw at them. He became violent. And the more violent he became, the more frustrated he got. And he did not got or could not retrieve even a single cap, got frustrated, came back crying. And the following day, similar incident happened with the brother, eldest brother by the name of Sattu. He took his lunch, took rest. When he woke up, all his caps have been taken away. When he got up, he was disturbed. But his well-being depended on the business. He had to go and sell that cap. So what would he do? If he doesn't do, he undergoes severe loss. So he began to think, how can I retrieve the caps from the monkey? Then I realized monkeys are great imitators. He took out the cap from his pocket, put it onto his hand, and then took it off from his head and waved in the air like this. And then he threw. And when he threw, because monkeys are good imitators, they also took the cap from their head and they also waved, followed the man, threw it, and all the caps came flying on the ground. And this man went running fast and picked up all the caps, retrieved all the caps, and went to his business as usual. Satta represents a person in goodness, Rajju represents person in passion who became violent, and Tamo represent person ignorance. They always talk about victim. I am a victim mentality, and would never do anything to find a solution. So here my question to all of you is, all three of these brothers were faced with similar situation, yet they all gave different response. Why? Just because of the different influences of the modes. For one who had a predominance of goodness, gave a thoughtful response. Who had a predominance of passion, became angry and violent. The third, who had a predominance of tamoguna, was dull-headed and lazy to think and only cried. What it implies? Situations we have no control on our situations around us. Only control that each one of us have is on the response that we give. What kind of response we give depends on what kind of mode we are influenced with. Are we influenced by Sattvagun, Rajagun, or Tamagun? And I believe you would have understood, just like in the case of Vibhishan representing goodness, if we cultivate mode of goodness, live a sinless life, God-conscious life, in that lifestyle, Sattvaguna gets cultivated, but definitely would have a happy life, wish-fulfilling life, and progressive life. If not, in Rajaguna and Tamaguna, there's only suffering and there's only frustration. And how to cultivate goodness? Live a sin-free life, become God-conscious, chant the names of the Lord, read scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, take association of devotees, worship the Lord, but naturally you will cultivate Sattvaguna. So to come to the conclusion of the subject matter of material nature, the modes are prevalent, as I said, all across and everything. I will not go too much in detail now. So for the modes affect the food that we eat, or the food that we consume is also under the influence of Sattvaguna, Rajagun, and Tamagun. The food in Sattvaguna is the fresh vegetables, or freshly cooked vegetarian diet, which is not too spicy or too putrid or too cold or too hot like that. The purpose of food is to nourish the body and the soul, and is to help live longer, not to spoil our health. Whereas the food in passion is too hot, too spicy, which refers to even a vegetarian diet. Even a vegetarian diet, if it's just too hot, which causes distress to your throat and belly, and the disease, are said to be food in passion. And what is a food in ignorance? Putrid, old, stale, food made up of the flesh of dead animals, which means the non-vegetarian food, the food which is like canned foods, the stored food items which have been processed long ago and then we consume it. These all are the food in tamoguna. And if you consume food like this, you're accordingly cultivating and strengthening a particular kind of a mode. Therefore, in spiritual traditions, food plays a very, very important role. Please understand that. Do not take the subject matter of food lightly, thinking that we can go anywhere, eat anything, what it matters. No, food plays a very important role. The food that you eat creates a body. The kind of food you eat and the person who has cooked the food determines your consciousness. It's a very, very important subject. And so similarly, we'll discuss all of these in detail in our Bhagavad Gita study, but here giving a synopsis. Similarly, the kind of music we hear, country music, spiritual music, is all goodness. The rock music, the pop music, the sensual music is all Rajaguna, and the hard rock, you can call it as Tamoguna, charity, and so forth. Everything comes according to three gunas. So by understanding the modes, we understand our nature. I hope whatever little presentation we have done on the subject matter of modes today, some of you, most of you would have got some idea about which mode is predominant within you. And I know you might find one or two modes are most predominant rather than one mode, but at least you'll have got some clarity like that. So therefore, Krishna says, Purushaha prakriti stohi bhumte prakritijan gunan karanam guna sangasya sad asatyo nijansu. Krishna says that every living entity follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of material nature. So all of us act according to the influence of modes of material nature, which acts like an invisible chain that has tied us up in this prison house of the material world. And unless we break this chain, become free from the influence of the modes of material nature entirely, until then we cannot escape the prison house. How to break the chain would be the subject matter of the sixth topic. But right now we'll focus on what we are talking in context of this material world as a prison house. To come to the conclusion for today, the conditioned soul referring to us, condition means being conditioned by the modes of material nature. All living beings in the material world are conditioned by three modes. The soul comes in contact with a particular mode of material nature and acts accordingly, being conditioned or influenced. We seek happiness on the material platform according to the modes we are conditioned. For Sattva-guna, he would find happiness in reading wisdom literatures. For Rajaguna, watching movies. For Tamoguna, only God knows where they find their happiness, because they're always crying, probably intoxication and illicit activities. We are forced to act helplessly according to the impulses born of the modes of material nature. Thus, our pure spiritual nature is perverted by the impure desire born of the three modes. So the desires that we have today are also influenced by these modes of material nature, and we remain always caught up into this material world. In this way, the soul is forced to take birth in this material world again and again, and our journey of suffering continues. Therefore, the role of Durga Devi is not to punish us actually, but through the means of punishment, Durga Devi is trying to help us to wake up. It's like a wake-up call so that we become awakened to the reality of this world and the life, and become conscious of why am I suffering and how can I escape the suffering. And she's motivating us through her Trividha Tapa to go back to the spiritual world, back home, back to Godhead. With that, we conclude for today. In today's subject, we spoke about Prakriti, which is compared to prison house. Prison house has two purposes, punishment and purification. We are punished in the form of birth, death, old age, and disease, and three kleshas, and purification of Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mohammed, Masarya. When a living entity comes to the prison house, is given a costume, and we are given a costume to choose from 8.4 million species, and then we all are tied up with the three chains of modes of material nature. And tomorrow, when we continue our discussion, we'll be speaking on the subject of Kala and most prominently Karma. So tomorrow's discussion may go a little longer. So I'm just letting you know up ahead of time so you are aware of it. Maybe we'll have a schedule tomorrow from 7 to 8:15 because the last session, not the last session, but the discussion of karma would happen tomorrow, which will take some time to explain. So with that, we come to the conclusion for today's discussion, and thank you once again for staying tuned up for today's session despite I going beyond the time as we decided for our program. So thank you so much, Hare Krishna. Back to our host, Mother Dipasha, if there are any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Prabhuji, for this wonderful session. And we could understand some of the very complicated topics very beautifully. And actually, our participants are also giving the same feedback that the session was very wonderful. So now I request, if you have any query related to the session, you may raise your hand. Please switch on the video and we'll be able to unmute you. You can directly ask questions. So far, I couldn't see any question on the... Okay, Prabhuji, there is one question on YouTube. Can we start with that one question? Because
yes, please.
So on the YouTube, our viewer Hari Krishna Sharma ji, he's asking that how one can transform oneself from Tamoguna to Rajguna and Satoguna.
By living a sin-free life, by living a godly life, by living a God-conscious life, and that is possible only while having an association of saintly people. So one short answer or one-line answer is only keep the association of saintly people in your life, you will become saintly. And to become saintly means to live a life in goodness. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Now I can see hands from
because the kind of association you keep, the kind of activities you cultivate, just like somebody wants to smoke, he has to just go and associate with smokers and he naturally pick up smoking. Similarly, if you take association of God-conscious people, you would become God-conscious and you would adopt to their lifestyle of reading scriptures, chanting the holy names of the Lord, etc., etc. All right?
Raj Lakshmi ji, you may ask your query, please.
It was the same question. Is it possible for the conditioned soul to remain always in goodness, sattva gunam?
Yes.
If yes,
Yes,
how?
Yes, possible, but it requires good amount of endeavor. It requires a practice of a certain lifestyle for a period of time. It requires a determination, and it's all possible by the grace of the Lord. If you follow the principles as Lord Shri Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita. Again, I'll tell you simple answer. If you want to change your modes, follow the ABCD formula. A for association of saintly people. That should be the priority. B refers to books. Read wisdom literatures every day. C for chanting. Chant the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And D, diet. I explained already, food has a great impact. So first of all, diet should be totally vegetarian. And then it should be Krishnatarian, which means it should be offered to the Lord. So as we explained in one of the previous sessions, when we offer food to the Lord, we were talking about how matter gets transformed into spirit. Was I speaking in this forum? Or maybe Bhakti Shastri, maybe. Bhakti Shastri, I was speaking about it. So when you offer food to the Lord, then the Lord accepts that offering and removes all the contamination, even from the vegetarian food, because anything in this world is always contaminated by the modes of material nature. So when we offer to the Lord and then accept that as an prasadam, then that offering becomes Shuddha Sattva, in a pure state of goodness. And when you accept that food as prasadam, which means you're cultivating your Shuddha Sattva, like that. Okay.
But sometimes environment, this four of the, I'm associated with the devotees. I strictly maintain a vegetarian diet, and then chanting, I chant pretty well. But sometimes, like our environment is such that we are not able to.
Correct. So that generally happens in the beginning stages. So please do not expect that overnight your situation would change, because you, I, and all of us have conditioned us individually for a long time, for millions of lifetimes. You getting a point?
Yes. Yes.
So it will take a time. It will take time, but it will not take time like many millions of lifetimes. By the grace of the Lord, it would happen within this lifetime. But patience is needed. Keep doing the same thing. Just like we just celebrated Ram Navami recently, the famous example of Shabri. Matanga Rishi, when he was passing away, Shabri said, "My dear Gurudev, please take me away, along with you. What will I do all alone here? I cannot live without you. Whom would I serve?" and all that. Then Matanga Rishi, being very pleased by her sincere devotion and service attitude, blessed her. "No, you should continue to live, and I bless you. In this very lifetime, you will have the darshan of your beloved Lord, Lord Ram." And then Lord Ram came to meet Shabri. And for that, she had to exercise patience. There was a good amount of time after the demise of his Gurudev, her Gurudev, that Lord Ram came. It's not that the Gurudev left today and by evening Lord Ram came. So don't be so impatient. In the sense, we should not be so impatient, and we have examples, isn't it? Shambri waited. So when these important days like Ram Navami, Narasimha Chaturthi, etc., days comes, we should meditate on these beautiful pastimes and reflect on how we should also live in the same footstep. These are pastimes performed to teach us a lesson, to tell us how things happen in the life. All right?
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Lakshmi ji. Next, I can see Kalpana ji. Kalpana ji, would you like to ask a question?
Yes. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
You were talking about the qualities of people in Sattva Guna, saying that we should be happy, peaceful, and content with whatever we have. But isn't it that if we are just contented to be what we are or what we have just now, that we will not aim for something higher in our spiritual lives? So doesn't that mean that we have to have some aspirations or desire to go higher?
So when we talk about modes, it refers to material activities, not to spiritual activities, because the goal that is given to us is itself very high, and that we recite every morning to attain Krishna Prema, isn't it? That's the highest goal. And we remind ourselves every day in every ISKCON temple when we recite 10 offenses. So the influence of modes are pertaining to the material activities, not to spiritual activities. Okay?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Kalpana ji, you are on mute. You can unmute yourself. You were saying something. Kalpana
Fine,
ji, you are on
we can go ahead. We can go ahead. Fine. I've answered that.
I can see Aishwarya ji. Aishwarya ji, you can unmute. Yes, please.
Hari Bol. Thank you very much for the wonderful session, Madan Sundar Prabhu. I'm really, delighted to be part of the Evolve Pune registration camp. I am from London, and I'm just, kind of inquisitive towards, about when you talked about creation and the number of species and all of that, and then we have the choice of dress to wear when we come to this earth. I was just inquiring how, so the choice is not ours to make, to which clothing that we wear, and the choices isn't really there. Once you're not a human, there is no choice after that to evolve by your own conscious nature. Then how is okay when you're human? Yes, there is a choice to be Krishna conscious and evolve. How does it work for all the other souls?
So those who are degraded to lower species, apart from or except for human beings, they have to follow the evolutionary process. So they have no option for that. Therefore, in scriptures, time and again, rarity of human life is explained. Human life is very rare. Only 4 lakh species out of 84 or 8.4 million. So if a person have glided down because of this life actions, have taken a birth into a dog species, he has to follow through the evolutionary chain before he can come back to the human life again. And why somebody has glided down into a species of a dog is because he desired. He developed so much affinity for the dog. That's what he remembered at the end of the life. And what does Krishna, the Paramatma, did? Just fulfill the desire. So you want it, so be it. So that's what it is. All right. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Aishwarya ji, you are on mute. You are
Can't
again
hear.
on mute.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much for the explanation. I think I got the gist of what you're saying. Yeah, thanks.
All right. All right.
Karma doesn't work. Karma works differently there, and karma works differently.
Karma, I did not intentionally touch upon the subject of karma, but well, we can take that right now. So karma only functions in the human species.
Okay.
You can create karma here, but not in other species. For example, a human being eats a non-vegetarian diet, it's a sin. If a lion eats a goat or even a cow, it's not a sin. Okay? So that's the reason animals live by instincts. Humans live by choices they make.
Yeah.
So that's the reason in human species, they are provided with a higher intelligence. And the purpose and the function of that intelligence is to make us choose to help us make the best choice in our life. That's a system. That's the whole thing. And the worst of all are the trees and the plants. They're helpless. The consciousness is so numb. Those who love to be without clothes or exhibitionists, who we call in English, according to scriptures, they are the one who are given the body of the tree, so they can be naked for the rest of their life. That's a high tamaguna lifestyle. So they are given that kind of opportunity to fulfill their desire, because that's what they wanted in a human species. I remember I was doing a book distribution once in America in the college where I was studying at Ohio State University, which every year would host one of the biggest youth festivals of the state. Almost 25,000 to 40,000 youth will come. And when I went for the first time there, and I only went once or twice, I was shocked to see almost most of the people were naked. And they were of the college students. And most of the ladies and the men have written on their bare chest and the bare back was, "This is my damn body. I will do whatever I want to do with it. No problem. Scripture says, you do the damn you want to do it. Next life, we'll do the damn that we want to do with you. Give you a body of a tree." And I'm like, we cannot break the laws. We cannot act smart, more smarter than the higher powers. All right?
Yeah. I'm reminded of the Damodar Leela there, definitely.
Yes. Nalkavera and Manigri. Yeah. They were also naked.
Yeah,
and they were made to live naked for a long, long time. That's the point.
Very hard.
Anything else?
Yes, Prabhuji, we have 3-4 more hands and the videos up. So next is Nancy ji. Nancy ji, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम।
धन्यवाद।
प्रभु जी, मेरा क्वेश्चन है कि स्पिरिचुअल का मतलब क्या होता है? स्पिरिचुअल लाइफ।
Dipasha, what is the question? Spiritual life का मतलब क्या
Like,
है?
what is the meaning of spiritual life?
Just like material life का मतलब जहाँ व्यक्ति अपने आप को शरीर मानकर अज्ञानता के रूप में जीवन व्यतीत करता है, उसी प्रकार जब व्यक्ति अपने अस्तित्व को समझ जाता है कि मैं भगवान का अंश हूँ, मैं भगवान का सेवक हूँ, मेरा भगवान के संग नित्य रिश्ता है और मैं सच्चित आनंद स्वरूप का बना हुआ हूँ, तब उस जीवन को कहा जाता है स्पिरिचुअल लाइफ और स्पिरिचुअल नेचर। ऑल राइट, हरे कृष्णा।
Thank you. Next, I can see Neha ji. Neha ji, you can unmute yourself and may ask your question.
Mother Dipasha, there is a huge difference in the volume when you speak and the others speak. So
Hare
I don't know what to
Krishna.
think.
Neha ji, you can unmute yourself.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी।
Yes, Mother Neha.
प्रभु जी, मेरा प्रश्न है कि एक ही जो है इंसान, उसके अंदर तीनों गुण का समावेश हो सकता है ना? मतलब
वो
कभी कभी हम
तीनों गुणों का ही बना है। अगर आप थोड़ा माइंड लगाएंगे ना, ये 84 लाख योनियों का मतलब क्या है? This 84 lakh or 8.4 million species are nothing but the permutation and combination of different grades of goodness, passion, ignorance. You can divide 8.4 by 3 and you will get an even number. So it's nothing but a permutation combination of different grades of goodness, passion, ignorance. So the body that you see, mine, yours, or anyone else, our body is nothing but made up of the modes of material nature. That's the reason some people are too lazy. They're always drowsy. Some people are hyperactive because this form is made up of but nothing but the combination of Sattva Gun, Rajagun and Tamagun.
Okay. एंड कई बार होता है कि हमारे आसपास ऐसे लोग होते हैं जिनमें हमें मतलब सिर्फ सद्गुण दिखता है, बट उनके अंदर इतना, वो लोग इतने एगोइस्टिक होते हैं या इतना क्रोध होता है, तो उस चीज को
A good point. See, क्रोध नहीं होगा उनके अंदर, ईगो होगा, अहंकार होगा।
हाँ, मतलब ईगो ही, वो इतना ज्यादा ईगो,
So yeah,
जो किसी को बहुत ज्यादा हर्ट कर सकता है।
Correct. So that's a drawback of mode of goodness. If a person is in mode of goodness, but if he's not God conscious, then he often becomes proud and egoistic.
But if he is actually very good person, like
he cannot be God conscious without being humble. A true God conscious person would always be humble. To give you an example, सरल सा एग्जाम्पल है, श्रीला प्रभुपाद समुद्र के तट पर वॉक कर रहे थे और वहां पे उनको क्रैब नजर आया. You know, there's a creature crab.
Yeah.
And Prabhupada had his disciple Brahmanand Prabhu, 7 feet tall, hefty man. And he said, Brahmananda, go and catch that crab. What is the size of Brahmananda and the size of a crab? Incomparable. Yet Brahmananda Prabhu could not catch a crab. And he came back to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, I failed. I could not catch the crab. Prabhupada said, what did you learn? So Brahmananda Prabhu was confused. What did I learn? What does it mean? Prabhupada said, see, crab was insignificant to you in strength. But because that crab took the shelter of ocean, who is so greater in strength than you, therefore crab became more powerful than you. So the point I'm trying to make here is, Srila Prabhupada, even with his simple day-to-day life experiences, could understand and could connect people with the greatness of the Lord. तो जो व्यक्ति भगवान की ग्रेटनेस को हर समय समझता है, वो अपने आप को स्वाभाविक रूप से विनम्र मानेगा. जैसे हम 2 साल पहले बद्रीनाथ यात्रा के लिए गए थे. Around 4:30 in the morning, I was standing in the Badrinath temple and I was looking No, it was not 4:30. It was around 5:15 when the sun was rising gradually. And I was looking at the sunlight were falling on this golden mountain range of Himalayas at Badrinath. And I was looking at it and I was thinking at that point of time, the mountain range of Himalaya was so huge, so gigantic. I felt so humble, so insignificant. So somebody knows God has to be humble, can never be proud. How can you be proud if you know somebody is so great? Isn't it?
मतलब जो हमसे हमारा सुप्रीम लॉर्ड है वो सबसे ऊपर है ना, अगर उसका नॉलेज किसी इंसान को है तो वो प्राउडी नहीं होना चाहिए, आप ये कहना चाह रहे हैं ना?
यस, वो स्वाभाविक रूप से विनम्र होगा जो भगवान के स्ट्रेंथ को, भगवान की ग्रेटनेस को जो समझता है वो स्वाभाविक रूप से विनम्र होगा, क्योंकि हम भगवान के सामने कुछ भी नहीं है।
नहीं, लेकिन मेरा जो पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस है उसमें मैंने ऐसे पर्सन को देखा है जो गॉड को बहुत सब चीजें समझते हैं कि गॉड सुप्रीम लॉर्ड जो है वो है, ठीक है, लेकिन वो दूसरों के प्रति विनम्र हैं, बट जो उनके खुद के फैमिली मेंबर्स हैं उनके लिए वो इतने इगोइस्टिक हैं कि वो उन्हें हर्ट कर जाते हैं।
अब ये तो दिस इज सम वेरी स्पेसिफिक क्वेश्चन एंड यू नो व्हाट एग्जैक्टली इज हैपनिंग विद इन द फैमिली अफेयर्स, आई डोंट नो। अभी आपने कहा कि वो दूसरों के प्रति तो विनम्र है, अपने परिवारजनों के प्रति
सीरियसली, मतलब वो हर टाइम, जैसे अभी भी पेंडेमिक जो चल रहा था पीरियड, उसमें जो भी उनके अंडर में काम करते हैं वो उनके लिए उतने विनम्र हैं, सब कुछ है, मतलब उनके लिए सब कुछ करना चाहते हैं, मतलब दूसरे पीपल देखकर उनको कभी नहीं कहेंगे कि ही इज अ वेरी प्राउडी पर्सन, बट जब घर के लोग, मतलब मुझे
I guess this is a question of a household conflict. Probably is beyond my area of discussion right now. It's a very specific, pertaining to a specific situation. So, but I hope you got the concept fine. Next, Basha. Thank you.
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, there is one quick question from YouTube. It was regarding when we were discussing about the trees and all. So the question was like various trees like Tulsi tree, Neem tree, even some places people and Burger tree, they are also like considered very auspicious, and Tulsi tree we worship very regularly. So how come they are into that tree position? Why they are into that species?
They are representation of the divine personalities in the spiritual world. You know, that's the reason they're worshipped. Just like you have the deities made up of matter, you know, so similarly they're representations of those divine personalities. But from one perspective, they are indeed the matter, they're tree or whatever it is, but because they're representing the divine personalities and there had been some pastimes pertaining to how they took this form, therefore we worship them, we offer respect to them. Okay?
Ji, Prabhuji, thank you.
So
Prabhuji, if
we can take, it's 8:30 now, we'll take last 1 or 2 questions.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Whoever have their hands raised, will take
Yes,
their question
Prabhuji.
and conclude.
Ji. Sonali ji, you may go ahead. Sonali ji, I have allowed you to unmute.
Yes. Thank you. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. My question is that, see, do we have to follow these all 3 chains like Sattva, Ramo, Tamo or Rajogun, whatever, because it is sound to be so complicated to come out of this all chain, because if we track all kind of, like, see, I'm not able to put in proper way. I mean to say,
I got your question. If I paraphrase your question, go ahead. Otherwise, go ahead.
Yes, like we are not constant in this. Sometimes it depends on mood.
Changing.
It keeps on changing.
Correct.
Though we know this is good or this is bad, but sometimes I don't know, something happened. We react from the same situation. We react differently.
Correct. Agreed.
So if we don't want to caught in all this chain, is there any solution shown in scripture or something?
Yes.
Or what?
A very simple solution. We'll be discussing at length day after tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah.
Yoga for modern age. Okay.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Sonali ji. Thank you, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, there are 2 quick questions. One is that, does the mode exist in the spiritual world too? And why are we in the prison? And where were we before? So
There is only mode of love that exists in the spiritual world. What's the second question?
That why are we in the prison? Like, and where were we before that? So that question
We
was from
are
Ramesh ji.
why we are in the prison? Why
Yeah.
prisoner is in the prison?
So what did we do?
Because what do we do? I mean, what did all the prisoners who are doing in the prison house did? They broke the rules and regulations of the society outside. Now you broke the traffic signal or you punched somebody. How does it matter if once you end in the prison house? What matters now is how to come out of the prison house, not to figure out what crime did I do so that next time I'll do another crime. That's not the idea, right? The idea is I have done some crime. That's the reason I'm here now. So now the thought should be, how do I come out of the prison house if you have understood you are in the prison house? So just like you go to a doctor tell you have a malaria. You don't ask a doctor, which mosquito bit me? That's none of the business of the doctor. Doctor is giving you a prescription. You take a prescription, get cured. Not that you go hunting for the mosquito. Which particular mosquito bit me? I have to take a revenge and all that. Past is past. Present is what you have got. And if you fix your present, you have a beautiful future. So don't, linger about your past, what had happened. We should learn from the past mistakes, not to repeat in the present. That is the idea of the past and how to deal with history. So I guess we have taken most of the questions today. We have
Yes.
not yet concluded our discussion. Discussion continues tomorrow also. So once again, sincere gratitude to each one of you for taking out your time all these days and coming every evening for the series of discussion based on Bhagavad Gita. Thank you so much. Shri Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thanks a lot to all our YouTube participants and Zoom audience. So we tried to cover almost all questions which were related to the session. Few questions which were not, we couldn't take because they were not directly related with the question, but we have noted down. So in the coming series, for sure, we'll try to address all those questions. We look forward to have all of you for tomorrow's session 2, because session 2 is going to be the connected session with this session, and which is going to be the solution. So we have understand what is the problem, right? Now we have to look forward to how to apply the solution in our life, which is going to be addressed by Madan Sundar Prabhuji through the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. So without a much ado, please take care of yourself, have a blissful night, and look forward that tomorrow all of us can meet